There's a sixth sense beyond that which is known to man. The sense is sought after as the Holy Grail, and as precious as immortality. It's the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and entertainment, and it lies at the pit of a man's fears and the summit of his genius. This sense, of course, is a sense of humor, and this is Sense of Humor TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sense of Humor TV.
Was good.
We're here with my buddy, fellow comedian, and also big Pittsburgh sports fan. It's in his blood from his papa, my good friend Sam Salem. Welcome to the show.
So good to be here. If you're watching on video, yeah, one arm is super sunburned and one isn't. Okay, I went to brunch. I was only covered by half the umbrella is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. We're going to go to Pittsburgh, and we're going to get that straightened out for you. Nice cloudy, gray day in Pittsburgh. We'll mention a few times throughout the show, but me and Sam, we're going to be in Pittsburgh. My man's headlining May 10th, and he was graceful enough to ask me to open for him. So
yeah, I'm excited. Strip District, baby.
Hey, baby, we're
going to get some Permanis. We're going to take the Duquesne Incline up on Washington.
Dude,
all the touristy things.
All of it. We'll have the link down in the description, so guys, just go down there, grab tickets, and we'll see you May 10th. But yeah, I'm pumped to see you in the Berg. Just got back from there, had an awesome time. And when's the last time you were out there?
It's been a few years. I think my grandma's funeral, not to be a downer, was the last time I was there a couple of years ago. But I grew up every single summer. We would road trip I grew up in Minneapolis area.
Yeah.
And we would road trip out to Pittsburgh. So I spent like at least a week or two every summer, and then like every other Christmas or something like that. So New Kensington is where my dad grew up. So for all the Pittsburghers out there.
It's funny because people, sometimes they'll people act like they know somewhere and they don't. And like, I remember the first time we were talking about Pittsburgh, I was like, oh, you know what you're talking about, like 100%.
A little bit. I can be dangerous with some information, but it's funny because Pittsburgh I feel like it kind of gets made fun of a lot at large because like East Coast people will be like, Pittsburgh thinks it's East Coast. Yeah. But it's like this weird hybrid of like, it's not East Coast, but it's not Midwest, and kind of has like the both.
It's weird because when I first moved to California, people were like, I would say East Coast, and I'd be in Pittsburgh, like, is that the East Coast? And I'm like, I always grew up saying it, but like, I don't know. Like,
I think that's a Pittsburgh thing where most Pittsburghers are like, yeah, East Coast, and then you see it, and it's like, yeah, Philadelphia is East Coast, Pittsburgh isn't, but it's not Midwest, and then people are like, thinking it's, I don't know, because all they know is like this. It's steel's made there, so they just think it's like some like gray industrial town, and then you go there and it's like gorgeous. It's like the bridges and the river and going up in the hills and like the skyline.
It's beautiful. I've only driven through it one time, and I was like, "This is Pittsburgh."
Well, that's the number one thing I get from people is they always go. First thing they always say, "I'm surprised how green it is." They're always expecting it to be like, like you said, kind of just like some shitty rundown place.
Everyone has a cough as if they've been in like the mines their whole life.
Yeah. Hey, behind you, right there, baby. We got the bridge up there.
Shout
out. We'll see you in a couple weeks. But no, that's funny because people's impersonation or interpretation of it when they've never been there. And then I always get like, I can't tell you how many times. Like, that's another thing I always appreciate about you. You always remembered I was from Pittsburgh, obviously, where people always be like, oh, Philly. And I'm like, I've never even been to Philadelphia.
And you feel, I mean, I feel like there's a few states you could say this. Like, if you were to split any state into two because they're so separate, I feel like California would be the number one that you'd do that. Like Northern California and Southern California are very different, like San Francisco versus LA. But I think number two for me would be Eastern PA and Western PA. The fact that people from Western Pennsylvania usually say, like, if they're not from Pittsburgh, they say, I'm from Western PA.
Yeah.
Like, it's a huge, like, delineation.
100%.
And it is different cultures. And, sheets over Wawa.
Dude. I knew your voice. I fucking knew it. I was going to say, fuck Wawa.
Hoagies over cheesesteaks.
He is a Pittsburgh. He's the Yinzer guy. So we got a Yinzer.
I like Steelers fans more than Eagles fans.
Of course.
So,
of course.
Way better.
So I get Steelers fans. I think Steelers fans are annoying because like the national Steelers fans who aren't from Pittsburgh, like the same, like there's just like a lot of.
It's like being a Cowboys fan not from Dallas.
Yeah, there's like a lot of people who jump on, and Steelers fans are just like, they're so supportive, but only in a negative way. At least the ones I know. True. Maybe it's just my dad. But even if it's like we're Super Bowl favorites, like, nah, they're never gonna fucking win.
Yeah.
And then they win, and it's like, well, can they do it next year? Can they go back to back? Where Philly fans are just like, They beat up Santa Claus.
Yeah.
They're like literally trying
like
to
super villains.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
just trying to fight people.
That was a good analogy that you were talking about, like Northern California and stuff. Because I always say, I'm like, yeah, it's the difference of like Philly and us is like LA and San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Philly's like an hour and a half from New York City, and Pittsburgh's like an hour from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very different.
Yeah, like I've been to Cleveland multiple times. I've never been to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird.
Are you a Cavs fan for basketball?
So it's a funny question. Thank you for asking. No, everyone when I was growing up was either AI or LeBron, and I was Kobe. I always was a huge Kobe fan. And I remember when they lost to the Celtics, that was like the worst day of school ever because I got ragged on because everyone knew I was a Kobe fan.
Of course.
Yeah. And then when they came back and beat them the next year in Game 7, I was talking shit.
That's I'm not looking forward to the playoffs are just about to start for the NBA, and being from Minnesota, Pittsburgh doesn't have a pro basketball team, so I'm a Timberwolves fan, and I hate being in LA and listening to Lakers fans.
Yeah.
Like my cousins who are from out here, there is no world in which we do not make the NBA finals, and I'm like, yeah, that could happen, but that is just like the delusion that Dodgers and Lakers fans,
True.
I guess, get to have because they are very talented.
True.
But Timberwolves in 5.
Yeah. So your dad's a Steelers fan. Did that make you a Steelers fan, of course, or is that like how that
Yeah, it wasn't even like really a choice. Like I had like
Yeah.
a terrible towel when I was like 1 year old.
Yeah, look at how many we got just littered on the floor here.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and this is how people, because then the Steelers were like have been. I mean,
Yeah,
they've been above
when we were
500.
kids, it was awesome. They were great.
Well, no, but actually, like in '98, the Vikings were 15-1 and made the NFC Championship. And like I remember in second grade, like Vikings had Randy Moss and were really good, and the Steelers were like, these were like the last years when they were like below 500. So I feel like people try to say like, oh, well, you just bandwagon because Minnesota sports sucks. I'm like, no, dude. Like I was getting killed at the lunch table in elementary school because they're like, why would you not cheer for Randy Moss and the Vikings who are great? Like,
and then you guys had
cool,
AP.
you got Tommy Maddox.
Yeah.
You're cheering for Yancey Thigpen. Like, what are you talking about? So I've been A1 since day one on the Pittsburgh front.
It's always good when you're doing it in enemy territory too. And you guys, I mean, and then Adrian Peterson and stuff like you got. And Minnesota's always had some pretty awesome players.
Yeah, it's been
like one of my friends. He's not from Pittsburgh, but he's from PA, and he grew up a Vikings fan, like randomly.
I don't know why you'd choose Minnesota sports is the most ever since LeBron won Cleveland a title. Nobody. I was born in '92, and nobody my age has been alive for a men's major championship. Like the Vikings have never won one.
Twins have never.
The Twins won like in like 88 and 91 or something like that. But since then, the Wild have never won because they an expansion team in 2000. The Timberwolves, up until recently, the worst franchise in the NBA win percentage wise. Like the only championship you've seen is like University of Minnesota hockey.
How'd you feel about them trading Karl Anthony Towns?
Oh, hated it. Dude, the thing about the Karl Anthony Towns, like the small markets, like people really just hold on to narratives of like Karl Anthony Towns is zesty. And it's like, yeah, sure, he has a voice that I guess in a problematic way you could categorize, or a stereotypical way could categorize as zesty. But if you're like actually watching the games, like it's the same thing as Rudy Gobert. Is Rudy Gobert an annoying person? To me, yeah. But like he's been averaging like over the last 10 games like 19 points, 16 rebounds, and has been like a major defensive stoppers. And just because one play where Luka hit a step back three from 33 feet back, everyone's like, he should have never won a defensive player award. And I'm like, he's a 7'2" guy guarding 35 feet away.
Right.
So you can have your problems with him. Anyway, now I'm just getting angry. This isn't good content at all. It's just like, fuck. I just don't like when people who don't, they only look at box scores or they only know Rudy as like.
Because like if you guys aren't aware of listening, like Sam played basketball, so it's like.
Yeah, that was like the goal before. I played college basketball and I was coaching college basketball. At like most recently at like the D3 level, but yeah, that was like always the plan was to be a college basketball coach before I fell into teaching and then fell into comedy.
Yeah, let's get into a little bit of that because like I was not obviously as good as you growing up, but basketball was like the sport I played like the most and the longest and everything. and I love basketball because we can still play it. It's not like we can go strap up football and like go play some pickup football,
Exactly.
But so you played basketball growing up. Were you always like kind of like joking and goof growing up, or like what was your profile?
I kind of was. I was like red, long, curly hair and acne. So like I did not look like a basketball player. Like I remember like in 4th grade, I was like the tallest out there, and also like had the skills of a point guard. So like, I mean, it's 4th grade. This is not a flex, but like I would like be, dominating because tall. I mean, I was a young Giannis out there. But like literally like, it's 4th grade. So they would like, before the game starts, they would line up the starting 5 and they would like put you across from the person who you want to guard. And they would like put like the kids with like autism.
Yeah, it was like the worst kid.
And that's not even like a punch. Like that literally happened where like multiple times, like they would like, everybody gets to play because it's 4th grade, and they just see I wore rec specs, so I just had like long curly hair and
you just had aura walking
goggles
around.
and just the skinniest pale. Like I was so pale I looked sickly.
Oh my God.
And so I would get like the worst player on the other team or someone with special needs put on me, and then I would like score the first 10 points, and they would switch and be like, oh shoot, this guy's
fuck
like,
yeah.
So. I feel like because I was like, well, no girl's gonna find me attractive. Like in middle school and high school, I was just like, all right, well, I know it was never like intentional, but I was just like, okay, well, people will like you if you're funny. So that was like that was like,
and like when you're on a team, it's just like the guys are always goofing around and fucking joking around. So it's like,
yeah, locker room culture. I think that's there's this guy. Well, it doesn't matter, but like his theory is like most people. Like professional sports, like what they talk about, for men specifically, like what they miss most is like, sure, they do miss playing, but like most of them retired athletes will be like, oh, I miss the locker room, like atmosphere and getting to joke around. And probably because like stereotypically, like dudes are much worse about like, let's all get together versus like women are more stereotypically like, oh, let's have book club and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so like if you got like to hang out in a locker room growing up or like college, like on the bus trips and stuff, it's like, yeah, you're just absolutely saying the most heinous things to your friends.
Yep.
And like basically hate criming each other, but in a way where like, no, but it's fun though.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And like my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she's like, what? Like, doesn't that hurt your feelings? I'm like, no, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
like if we don't joke with someone, like you're like not my friend. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I feel like that's what I love about comedy is, I mean, it's a one-of-one feeling, like going up on stage and crushing, or someone like touring now, someone's like, I drove 3 hours to be here, like that blows my mind, and I'm usually like, oh, you should spend your money better. Like there's real famous people you could go see, but like that feeling of like being in the green room with your buddies, or being in the green room at a place like the Hollywood Improv or something with like bigger comics, and you get to like that's that locker room feeling of like getting to joke around.
100%. And like that's another fun thing about like getting to like do like the like road together, and like when we're gonna be doing that, it's like cool to be in another city and be in a green room and be like, oh, this is fucking cool. Like all the times we've been in like the back of Flappers or just like something like a green room like that, it's cool to just like be on the road and be like, oh shit, like this is like we makes you feel like you're making progress, which is also nice. Yeah,
it's the best. And honestly, like I have a friend, shout out Joe Dombrowski, who headlines and like really like sells well, so he can like afford to bring like friends on the road with him more often. And like whenever I do it, it's just like kind of feels like a fake job, because it's just like, okay, we wake up late and then explore a new city together. Like we'll just be randomly in like Winnipeg,
go do something cool around town,
or Calgary or Denver or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, we just sightsee and hang out. And then you hang out in a comedy club and get free drinks and food all night. I mean, I'm not even that big of a partier, but it's just like, sure, I'll sip on a beer while I like hang out with my friends. So.
No, 100%. That is like because it makes it like all the suffering that we do like worth it. You know what I mean? Because it is like I say that all the time at the end of the day, like it is supposed to be a fun job. That's why we put in so much like sacrifice to do it.
Definitely. I mean, yeah. Even I'm starting to tour, and like this fall winter was like the first time where it was like, okay, like I don't know what it was, but like 15 cities in like a few months span where like I'm on the road like bouncing around. But like I still like I'll still drive an hour and a half just for 10 minutes of stage time in LA, and like, oh, we can't really pay you, but here's a free drink ticket. And like that's all it is.
Right.
And like people who don't get it are just like, you're gonna drive an hour and a half just to perform for 10 minutes? And it's like, bro, I know people who drive 3 hours to do that, just like network.
100%.
And that's what honestly I feel fortunate where my wife, like, comedy wasn't on even like on the radar when we first got married, and then all of a sudden it like did become the dream, which just means like, okay, I'm just gonna be gone all night and like networking at bars and comedy clubs and coming home at like 1-2 a.m. or being on the road. And she's like just been super cool with it and does understand that it's like, okay, you got to drive from LA to San Diego to open for someone and do 15 minutes and get paid $50 and that's it, like, which you're probably paying that in gas or more.
So. Well, it's funny too that you get to the point where like you're paying to do it at the beginning. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, you know, going to mics and paying to do those and blah 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 blah, and then you get to the point where like, all right, now I'm doing a show, you know, and it might not be the best pay or whatever, but it's like I'm getting paid something. I'm getting something. It's not. It's at least at a comedy club. It's not at a fucking, you know, somebody's, you know, apartment or something like that.
When I did Vegas, I didn't get paid at all for the show. I got a plane ticket, I got a room, and I was like, it's just gonna be fun as fuck. You know, I'm excited to do it, and I'll make the money back at the blackjack table as much as I can. You know, came out $5 positive.
Oh, that's a great blackjack.
That's a good
player.
trip right there.
Yeah, right.
I feel like anytime I've gone to the casino, which is not much, like 5 times, I end up down every single time.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, the casinos, they're built to beat you. I feel like they're the Pittsburgh, the good old Rivers Casino is free promo.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah.
Do you guys bet on sports a lot?
Unfortunately, yes.
I used to more when I lived like somewhere where it's like legal. You know what I mean?
It's not legal here.
No, it's not legal in California. So it's like
there's
no,
apps
we don't.
that work for it here, but like they beat around the bush a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never done just because like I get super competitive and I know I would be that person where if I was like down 1,000, I'd be like, let me just put 1,000 on this one thing that's a guarantee, and then it's like miss, and I'm just like whatever. So I just don't do it, and I don't care. Like maybe this is a hot take. I don't know. Like, hey, legalize sports betting and bet as much as you want on it. That's cool. What I can't stand is how ubiquitous it has become in all the promotions for sports.
Yeah,
like the fact that ESPN is the worldwide leader in sports information, and then they also have their own gambling platform.
Yeah, 100%.
Not to be like conspiracy theory guy, but I'm like, you can like have your journalist tweet out stuff like, hey, this person's gonna very likely they're gonna be they're gonna be the 5th pick in the draft. Like they're a lock to be a top 5 pick, and then you bet, oh, this person be a top, and then all of a sudden they're picked 23rd.
I never even thought of that. That's actually fucking insane. You're so right.
And like again, I liked hearing when my friends who like gambling, like I enjoy hearing their stories, but when I'm watching like ESPN and like the broadcasters are like, oh man, well if you bet the under on this is not looking good. I'm like, I don't want commentary on if people's bets are hitting. I just want talk about the game. Like tell me, like build up the story of like, okay, this rivalry. Okay, Steph Curry and James Harden have played each other 60 times in the regular season and have split 30. Like
you want to hear like the old school sports stats, like
I don't know,
like the Sports Center we grew up on.
Like I think it's cool, like Pittsburgh guy, Pat McAfee. Like I think it's cool he brings more variety to like his hour of or however long he does Sports Center, and like he will talk about hockey more than like some of the other people, or will try to like learn about sports. But I think the other edge of that sword, and some people might like it, I might be in the minority, but it's just like that. And I don't even know if McAfee talks about gambling a lot, but that kind of like bro barstool vibe
direction
has just brought gambling to like the number one thing talked about. It's either like, it just feels like, hey, we're either going to talk about, is LeBron better than Jordan? Like Alexander Ovechkin broke an unbreakable Wayne Gretzky record,
Literally.
and then the next day on SportsCenter they're like, so what does this mean about LeBron? And like, is Ovechkin the LeBron or the Jordan or the Kobe? And it's just like, what are we talking? It's either that, or they're just like, here's 7 parlays to make your wife love you. And it's like, okay. All right, man. I was just trying to see like, I don't know, who's like shooting above 40%.
Yeah. I was gonna bring it up anyway, so this might be a good time. But you brought up McAfee. Did you see that big night at a Pittsburgh event he had at the Penguins Arena the other night?
Oh, I mean, I basically like saw 1 or 2 like ancillary things next to him. Like, oh, I guess he must have done a big thing. But what was like wrestling, or what was it?
No, dude, it was just literally like, I was so confused too, because I was just I got back like after a show, and I was just like put on YouTube, and I saw like they were live, and I was like, why are they live so late? And it was like really weird. I don't know if he was doing like, because he used to technically try to do stand up, and I don't even know if it was like that, but then he brought out like like Wiz Khalifa did like a concert in the middle, and then Snoop Dogg came out, and then like he had like Sidney Crosby, Ben Roethlisberger, Paul Skeens. Real interesting. I only really like I've been getting it in clips. I didn't watch it live, but like I would today when I was like getting ready, I had like the Wiz thing on. It was like real, and they were all just like openly just like smoking a joint on stage, passing around at PPG, like Snoop talking them, and I was just like, I used to fucking work there, and I was like, I can't imagine just lighting up in the middle of the arena like that. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean, that's kind of the era though, where it's just like like now that I'm at like some of the comedy clubs around the country, I guess Pat McAfee's just a big version of this, but I'll just see people who are not stand-ups at all that are just doing live podcasts at comedy clubs.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, cool. Like, but literally, I remember I was doing Helium Atlanta, and so I like clicked on the calendar to go get like the ticket link so I could promote it, and I just happened to see like who else was on the calendar, and it said it was like Kelly Stafford, and it was like sold out already like far in advance, and I'm just like, that name sounds familiar, but I don't know a stand-up by the name of Kelly Stafford.
Yeah, who is
and
that?
I look at it, it's Matt Stafford's wife.
What?
And she just has a podcast, and it's just like there are these people. I mean, I guess if you have an actual like podcast, like, okay, cool, you are putting on a live show, but I feel like there's so many like TikTokers or YouTubers who have this audience that will come to a live show where they're just like, okay, let's have a live show. We don't even know what it is. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the Vine era, but remember like Nash Greer and like
all those
like
guys,
like the pretty boys that were like all the teen girls were like in love with.
Yeah.
They had a thing called like MagCon, which was called Meet and Greet Con, and all it was is they were doing like I don't know, the Elysian Theater or like not literally that, or like Dynasty Typewriter, which are like little like 100 to 200 seat like little theaters or venues in LA. They were doing that like in cities across the country, sold out, and all it was they would just do a meet and greet line, and then they would all go on stage, and like music would be playing, and they'd just be on stage going, "What's up, everybody?"
Oh, just doing like selfies.
And so
stuff.
they were just selling out venues, literally just for a meet and greet. And I kind of feel like that's the era of like.
That's insane.
I mean, if you're Pat McAfee, I guess it's cool because, yeah, you're showing up to it and you're getting a Wiz Khalifa concert or like there's actual cool things happening.
There's a lot more to that.
Because he's so famous.
Yeah.
But then there are just, comedy clubs are like restaurants at the end of the day that want to sell alcohol and food. And so they're like, yeah, if you're a podcaster or if you're a YouTuber who has a following, we're not really as concerned. Not all of them are like this, but it's like we're not really concerned if you have like jokes. We're just like, hey, you sold out. So anyway, it's very funny to me that it's like,
no, it's perfect.
Pat McAfee's doing like a giant version of just like, yeah, just come in and hang out.
Perfect example of that. We got some. Like my buddy texted me the other day. He's like, you got some competition in the stand-up game. Mick Foley, the wrestler from the '90s, is going to the Improv, the Pittsburgh Improv, and it's like, what are we?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people like that. That's T.I. T.I.'s doing like the Looney Bin in like Little Rock, Arkansas, and just like random. But anyway, I don't know. Shout out anybody. Hey, anybody who can get paid in this economy, get your bag.
I've fallen for those shows before. You know that chef, Matty Matheson, who's like funny YouTube chef?
Oh, he's on
like,
The Bear, yeah.
Yeah. He was like doing this show, this tour. I was like, yeah, I love Matty Matheson. I'll buy a ticket. We bought a ticket. There weren't even seats in there. We just go and we're standing.
Where was it at?
And it was in Lawrence, Kansas at the Granada Theater, which like they usually have great shows there. And it was just like a few people were all standing around like this. And he just comes out and he's like, let me tell you guys about the time I had a heart attack. And he's just telling like heart attack stories. And we're just like,
it's not
what kind of show? Like, we didn't know what to expect. We're like, I don't fucking know. I guess we fell for it,
Yeah, I mean, because someone like that who is an actor and like YouTuber, you're like, okay, he's gonna like live show, have guests, or like
something like that,
have cool restaurant stories at least.
Yeah.
But it was just in like a concert venue with like no seats.
No seats at all, and like it was not enough people to fill it out. We're all just like in this pit, just all looking at each other, like, is this what this is? Like, is this what you thought it was gonna be? Everyone's like, I don't fucking know.
That's what's up.
No, yeah, like you said, it's like if you can make money, fuck it. But it's one of those things like you only go once. You know what I mean? Like how you really, I guess, make it is like people come you had a good time and they come see you again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's the key is like if plenty of people can finesse and do it one time, but can you have like the last thing? And that's me. Like I got my following off of like. I was like, okay, well, I'm not like touring at this point. I'm not getting enough stage time to just have a bunch of crowd work clips. I can just tell stories of like what's happened in the classroom. Mm-hmm. But now like some people online just see me as like, okay, teacher TikToker. And there are a bunch of like teacher TikTokers who get big followings because it's easy to tell funny stories because kids say insane things.
Yeah, you're in like crazy situations sometimes.
And everybody has the context. That's the hardest part about comedy is providing context. But like everybody's been in school, or at least even if you're homeschooled, like
So it's relatable.
Yeah, it's always gonna be relatable. But now there's like all these like teacher influencers that are like, well, I got to do live shows now. Whereas like I'm like not putting anybody down. Do that if you want. But I'm like, hey, I do stand up for real. Like
you're a stand-up comedian first and foremost.
Yes, like I'm a
stand-up.
I'm a stand-up comedian who happens to have been a teacher who still substitute teaches sometimes. And yes, I do have a lot of stories from teaching, but like they're actual like punchlines. It's not just like, hey teachers, when your principal doesn't let you wear jeans to school, that shit crazy. And you're just like, what?
No, but like, that is definitely, you definitely do stand out in that way where it's like you, like Malik, if you know Malik B, like you guys are like big on.
Oh yeah, he does a bunch of like sketch stuff, but that he actually.
But he's like a crusher on stage
up.
too. Yeah, so like there's a difference because I've been in other rooms where like I've hosted for people on like some shows, and then I'm like I come back and it's like quiet, and you're like, oh no, and then I remember, I won't say the guy's name, but he's like big on like TikTok and shit, and I was at the Ice House and it was like all headliner lineup, and I go to the bathroom and I come back and it's dead quiet, and like Christy and Heidi happened to just like be there to hang out, and they were like, I come in, they're like, oh shit, like, and I was like, what happened? And they're like, I just really got bad. And then Zainab Johnson.
Oh yes, very funny.
Yeah, very funny. So I love Zainab, and so she was going on after, right? She was closing out the show, and he gets off stage, like I take him off, and he goes, I gotta get out of here. Zainab's gonna like roast me, and he leaves. And as soon as Zainab got on stage, she goes, it's not as easy as it looks, huh, guys? like just so immediately, funny. Just goes at it. Like I was like cracking up, but yeah, like so. But that's why like even I knew you before I even like had like seen how much you were killing it online, and we just like I saw you have a really good set of flappers, and then I just started talking to you, and that's how we met, I think.
Shout out to Flaps.
Shout out Flaps, baby. Yeah. It's funny how many people I'm like cool with from that place, even though I don't really go there much anymore. But like you, like I'm still cool with you from there. Like I mean, a million people, Heidi, Sean. There's like a million people I know.
There's a lot of funny people that roll through there. Yeah. It's funny with the online versus like actually doing stand up, what's funny for me too is like most of my, like a large majority of my following is women, and like specifically like millennial and Gen X like moms.
Like your online
like
following?
It's a lot. Yeah, like, and so I've gotten this comment a decent amount where like it's so clear there'll be like a couple at my show, and it's so clear that the like wife or girlfriend like dragged her boyfriend or husband to the show, and they're just kind of like, whatever, some like bitch ass teacher, like whatever. And then after the show, because I mean, again, I do jokes about teaching, but I'll do jokes about like being from the Midwest or my mom dying of brain cancer or whatever. And then like after the show, it's almost like they're trying to compliment me, but it's almost disrespectful where like I'll do like a little meet greet, and like the dude is like, I didn't even know who you were. Bro, I didn't even know who you were. I thought this was going to be, I thought this was going to be some like gay stuff, bro. I don't even know. Hey, but let me shake your hand, as if like their like handshake is like the most stamp of approval. It's an honor, which I do kind of like it, because I mean, I want to be funny to everybody. And I love having like, hell yeah, to having like a mostly women audience, but like it is cool to like win over people. And that's like, I guess being on the road, it's a really cool, like I had some cities that like sold really well. I had some cities that like not so much. And then a few clubs that are still those clubs that like, they just have such a built-in audience themselves, where it's like a mix. And like it's a cool feeling to like sell out a room and it be your fans. And it's just kind of like, how can you not crush? Because they're already there to see you. So you can kind of like not even tell jokes, and they're still going to be like, wow, we like this. Not that I would not tell jokes, but almost sometimes more fun is when you go to a comedy club and it's just a lot of people who are fans of comedies who don't necessarily know you, and then you win over that crowd. True. And like are able to gain fans, or like, opening up for other bigger comics. Like I've like my buddy Joe, and then gaining his fans. Or when you come to Pittsburgh, people will be like, oh, okay, cool. Like this guy crushed. I'm gonna follow him now too. That's like such a fun way of 100% of gaining fans.
It's interesting too sometimes, because like even when we were down at the Laugh Factory last weekend, like we had more people at the show Saturday than Friday, but the Friday crowd was just like more comedy fans, you know what I mean? So they were like, it felt better on Friday, even though there was like probably half the crowd. It's a weird it takes it takes two to tango sometimes. You know what I mean? But even just I want to kind of get into it a little bit before we get on to something else because it's just super interesting to me, and I think to the fans is like people are always interested like how did you get where you are now kind of story, and like with you, like you said, like we both had these like sports aspirations, you know what I mean? Like I was gonna try to front office, you were coaching. Like how did you get from like doing that to like kind of being like I want to get on stage and stuff?
I think I was always like a secret theater kid in high school. Like I wanted to do theater and I was like, that looks so fun. But I was like, in my head, I'm like, you have to be whatever your stereotype is. Like if I play sports, like I have to be like a jock. And so like, and I mean, playing basketball didn't really like leave time to be in like the musical or anything like that.
True.
But I was always like jealous of like people performing. And I mean, growing up in the Midwest, like I have friends. One, I was just kind of dumb and unaware as a kid. But two, I've had friends who like grew up like around New York or LA where they just always knew like, oh, you can be a commercial actor and you can be like,
yeah, like it was so far away from us.
You don't have to be a famous person to make it in entertainment. Like there's different ways. Like you can become a writer or like whatever it is. And so like growing up jokingly, when people would ask my dream job, I would always be like, oh, the Sonic guys, because there was like two guys who were in every Sonic commercial.
Yeah.
And I was in my head, I'm like, I mean, I'm sure they get paid like $100,000 a year just to be in like these commercials, which is like, they're probably getting paid millions.
Yeah, right.
Like, and
all those residuals and shit.
Yeah. And so anyway, it was always something that like I wanted to do. I just didn't know was an option. Mm-hmm. And then when I transferred my sophomore year to school outside Chicago, my mom knew what Second City was, which is like a famous improv.
Yeah.
Spot for those listening that don't know, where like a lot of famous SNL people have come up through Second City. And my cousin, she grew up with Jason Sudeikis, and
he's a hooper too.
Yeah, and was like best friends with his sister, and like lived in New York, like would hang out with him, and like at the after parties of SNL, all that stuff. And so my mom was like, oh, like Jason Sudeikis played basketball and then moved to Chicago. Like, you got to do Second City. You got to do improv.
That's cool. She said that.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, you never listen to like your parents. You're just kind of like, yeah, cool. And so I never really paid attention to it. And then, long story short, after getting married, my wife took a job out here. And I was like, okay, well, I always thought comedy was cool if I'm going to do it. But I was too scared to like actually do comedy because I'm like, how do you even do that? So I signed up for like a stand-up comedy class.
Nice.
Which is like so silly, and like people make fun of them, rightly so, but also
there's some good classes too out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like, oh my gosh, I learned so much, but it just felt like to me a safe space where it's like, okay, I'm supposed to be bad at this, and it's just like a place where we're all like coming together. So anyway, in like 2018, I did like a class, and then just never did comedy after that, and then the pandemic hit. And I was like, oh, if I'm gonna do comedy, I actually like have to do it. So I started like going to open mics as soon as things opened back up from like the pandemic, and then just hitting open mics. I saw people like would post their clips, but I'm like, well, I only have like 5 good minutes of jokes, like 6 months into this thing. So, and even then, looking back, were they even that good? Who knows?
Right.
But I'm like, oh, I can tell stories. So then I started like posting on TikTok and Instagram. That following kind of took off, and then was able to quit full-time teaching to sub, and then just slowly grow. And yeah, you know how it is with comedy. It's never linear. Like, and it's never, you just kind of start out and you kind of think like,
because that was probably right around when I met you, was the end of the pandemic when we were like doing mics and
yeah, like I was like kind of just like I was within like a year of starting stand up. And so, coming from like a family of people who like go and get their MBAs, I was like, okay, well, how do you like, I know you don't apply, but how do you like, what is like the track and what is the job that you get where it's no, really you go to open mics, you become friends with people, those friends run shows, and then slowly you get to a point where, okay, I got a big enough following where maybe I can sell some tickets, or maybe like someone in this town, or I got signed with a manager. So I don't know if that's the most entertaining story.
No, but it is. Yeah, no, it's entertaining for me, and like it's also interesting too that like I love not to like talk about it too much, but like I love that your mom pushed you because like her passing and stuff. That's like just a cool like thing you have with her, and like I think I've told you before, like my dad passed when I was young, so it's just like something else I've also like bonded with you over. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I think that's a cool thing, and like probably a reason that you like are not only great at it, but like pursue it the way you do.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, she like, she was just always funny, not like in a stand-up way, but just and good sense of humor, and like loved, like I do like a decent chunk in the middle of my act about like my mom getting brain cancer and that experience in like hospice and stuff. And overall, it's like it's never too dark. It's like I can't stand when I love dark humor. I'm not the darkest guy, but this stuff can be like a tiny bit dark. But I don't like when people have something traumatic happen to them and then they just say like, "Isn't that the most messed up thing ever?" I'm like, no, you gotta have punchlines.
Yeah,
you gotta have,
you can't just
like,
bring up
something,
something. Yes,
something about it.
Yes,
like you're doing therapy is what you're doing up here. But anyway, with my every once in a while when someone like does feel bad and they're like, "No, but you're like making jokes and stuff," I'm like, I promise my mom would be so pumped to know that she's like I'm in the joke
100%.
And she even like had, it's like part of my act, but like she like one of the last things she said to us was like making fun of my little sister, but like in a way not because it was like she wasn't being real. She's just like, oh, this is funny to use like my dying breaths on like getting jokes and stuff like this. Or like growing up going to funerals with her. Like I went to my my grandma, her mother-in-law's funeral, and like she was a wonderful grandma, but like a terrible, like she was so mean to my mom. And me and my mom are standing at the open casket, and I'm like, yeah, you know, my mom goes, oh, she was a wonderful grandmother. I'm like, yeah, not the best mother-in-law though. And my mom leans over the open casket and taps the dead body and goes, yep. And it just walks off. And so it's just like, she always was like,
so you get her kind of humor, like you were.
Yeah, she lost 2 brothers like when she was like, you know, a young adult, and like she was just kind of used to like having bad things happen, and she was like, okay, well, I will cry about them, but I can't cry about it all the time, so I might as well get some jokes off.
No,
and like that was her like healthy attitude about
the
it.
way that's interesting what you said about her brothers even. So like, because like same thing, like my mom's dad died when she was 15, my dad died when she was 10, so it was kind of like you don't want something bad to happen to someone like that, but it makes it easier when you know you're not like, because if my mom hadn't gone through it, I probably wouldn't have been able to go through it, you know, kind of thing. So
it's funny. Like I lived like a pretty just great life growing up in terms of like, okay, like I was lucky where my parents were together. My mom stayed at home, so like she could like pack the lunch, and if I forgot an assignment,
make dinner and stuff.
We were middle class, which most people will say middle class and be like they like fucking we're flying first class places, but like genuinely like, you know, we would road trip to Pittsburgh, not fly, and like, you know, we would, sure, we could get clothes for school, but we're not like balling out. So anyways, I just had this very like nothing bad ever happened life, and so when I lost my mom, I was just kind of like, oh, bad things. This is so like sad that it took this. I'm like, bad things can happen to me, like specifically, and now I wish my mom hadn't have died, but it does give me this empathy for other people who are going through terrible things. I feel like I'm like a better person to them now, where I'm like, oh, just kind of like, hey, if there's anything you need, they don't really know what to ask, but like, hey, Venmoing them some money if you have the means, or like giving them a DoorDash gift card to be like, hey, I hated having to, like, had so much grief, I don't want to have to fucking cook a meal.
100%, man.
But like I had some friends who would drop off like gift cards, and like I'm like, okay, cool, I can do stuff like that, and it's made me a better comedian because it's just like, okay, I have perspective and 100%. Life experience, and I can relate. Like honestly, the people who don't like my dead mom jokes, which they usually overall do well, but like if there is someone who doesn't like it, it's someone who's not really been through anything traumatic too much.
100%.
Right.
And the people who love it the most are the people who have gone through it. Like my mom it was called glioblastoma, like specific like tumor in her brain, and I did the joke in like at my show in San Diego, and after the show, the green room, the waitress that was like serving us in the green room, she was like, hey, I just want to say I lost my mom to glioblastoma. I've never laughed about glioblastoma before. That was awesome.
That's amazing.
And it was just like that, like that's like the coolest thing that's ever
100%
happened to me. And it's just like, the people who've been through trauma laugh at this, or at least have some perspective. If anyone ever gets like bummed out or offended by it, it's someone who was me before my mom died.
I remember the first time I heard you talk about it, I started laughing because it's the same thing. It's like even this last weekend when I was in San Diego, I was doing like 20 or whatever, and I brought it up, and it was like kind of the room was like, oh shit, you know, for a second. Yeah. And I go, guys, it happened to me. I'm laughing about it. We're good. And then it kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they get it. There's sometimes a little hepatitis, whatever. And it was funny, like I was saying, the first night they were great. The second night they were like a second, and I was like, no, guys, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing I've learned is you got to let the audience know that you're okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do see people like joke about stuff that is, okay, this is funny and it is dark, but like we can see in your eyes that you're like holding off tears or there's like you haven't actually processed it yet.
Terrible quick story about that. Not terrible, but like one time I was at an open mic at Flappers and someone had brought up that their parent had passed, and then it turned into like this like fucking like parade of everyone talking about like their trauma and shit, but they didn't really have any punchlines, kind of like we were talking about. And then I like talked about mine or whatever, and I get a DM the next day from the original guy, and he was like, "Oh, that wasn't funny," like blah 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 blah. And I literally had to message him back, and I was like, "Hey man, like I know you're probably like still like just like emotional about what happened, but like don't like just tip like don't bring it up in front of a room full of comedians if you're not ready to talk about it, you know what I mean?
Because we're gonna like make jokes and stuff.
Exactly. And to his credit, he did message me back and was like, no, you're right, like I'm sorry, you know what I mean? But he was like pissed at first, and I was just like, dude, like come on.
Yeah, it's not if there's something you don't want to be joked about, comedians are not the people to bring it up in front of. But
so when you got up for the first time, did you like love it right away, or was it a slow thing, or like how did you feel like right when you got like done doing it?
I guess my first time doing it was just like in the class that we had, we would like perform. I mean, which essentially is what open mics are in LA. It was just like me in front of like 9
your peers,
like me in front of 9 people, and it would just be like. It was kind of like assignments, like write one-liner jokes, write storytelling jokes, write observational. It'd be like do 3 minutes, and so it was just like, I don't even know if there was like, oh, I love this. It was just something about it where I'm like, I just need to do it. Like there's just, and I don't know, I'm not sure at that moment where like it was like I need to make a career out of this. It was just like there's just something about this where it's just. Yeah, like playing sports my whole life was really cool. Love the bonding, love the competing, love the like, this guy is bigger, faster, stronger, but I can like grit my way into like doing this. And there's something like that stand up where it was just like, I don't know, like, just being able to perform, and it's not like me versus anybody. It's just kind of me versus me, I guess.
I like the feeling too. I'm sure you get this from being a sports like guy too. Is like I like the feeling of like every time you do it, you feel like you're getting better at it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you lift and then you don't lift for a while and you get sore when you go back to lift. It's kind of like that same thing. And I kind of feel you too. I like what you said earlier, and I feel like a lot of people have that same thing sometimes, especially people from our background, and you like kind of had like grew up and you're like, damn, like I kind of have those aspirations like theater or whatever like that, but we're playing sports. And like just a quick story about that is like when I was in 5th grade, they had like a school play or whatever, and they had like an actual like director come to like direct the play, and they had us all audition, but none of us like took it really seriously, but I got picked for the lead or whatever, and there's like other kids that were like crying that like they didn't get it.
Yeah, suck it 5th graders. No one take that out of context of me saying suck it 5th graders. All right, everyone calm down.
But no, exactly. And I was like, give it to this kid, give it to that kid, because all my friends were like, dude, that's fucking gay, like you're the lead, you know what I mean? They were probably just mad at being kids. But and I was like mad that I got it because I was like, fuck, I'm gonna get made fun of by my football buddies and shit.
Yeah.
And I did. And then after that I was like, all right, I'm not acting at all. But then we got to high school and they had this class called TV production, and it was the only class ever that a teacher sent something home positive to my parents instead of me fucking around.
Yeah, of course.
And we had this awesome teacher, and I was like, got real interested in it. But of course, after 1 year, he was there for like 50 years. He retired after my freshman year. Dang. Replaced it with some terrible lady, but then I ended up doing tech theater, like behind the scenes, like stuff with the stage. So I was always kind of like getting in, I was always there. And then the real thing when I got out of sports is I wrote a pilot to a show that kind of is it's literally about a kid that like is a senior high school, and he's the running back on the football team, but he's also acting, and like it's fun, you know what I mean? So when you said that, it's kind of just like that's kind of been my journey.
Yeah, I think it's funny as kids, like all the things that embarrass me are like things that I wish I would have done. Like I like quit piano lessons. I'm like, I don't want to have to go to like piano. I'm like, oh dude, now if I like if I could like
you could kill it on the piano.
Yeah, if I was classically trained on piano or like played like for as long as like I took piano lessons from kindergarten to 6th grade, 7 years, and I don't know how to play piano.
You'd be up there, Craig Robinson,
because I
at the
yeah, and it's just like I don't know, like it would be cool. Like I don't know, I think I wouldn't do musical comedy all the time, and some people make fun of it, but I'm like, yeah, or like being able to write jingles for commercials. Like, I just would have lended myself to so many
people who do it. Like Morgan J, he's cool as hell when he does musical.
Yeah,
stuff.
Luke Null is probably like my favorite in the LA scene of like
he's great.
Actual punchlines or like jokes within songs. Yeah, and he does sound good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just funny. Like as a kid, if the kids who for whatever reason have the maturity and realization of knowing where they want to go, we kind of already talked about it. But like I didn't know like, oh, you could pursue stand-up comedy and commercial acting and stuff like that. Like knowing that as a kid, but also knowing like, oh, it'd be good to know piano for these reasons. And I feel like, honestly, teaching with the internet, that's one positive thing, is kids are much more savvy these days.
Yeah.
And like, I've asked kids like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's like, 14-year-olds, and I'm expecting them to say just like I want to be a professional athlete or like a doctor or police officer.
YouTuber.
Yeah, or YouTuber.
Yeah.
But like randomly there will be kids that'll like mention this very specific like, okay, well, this computer science, like if you go into this program, it's actually like cheaper than regular college, and you can like make like $150,000 a year, and like, and it's like,
I always look at those kids and be like, you're gonna go so far, you're gonna do so good.
But I feel like that's happening more because like the internet is more, like TikTok just exposes kids to like, this is how you can make money doing this. Oh, this is a hobby that you can have. This, I mean, there's definitely a lot of downsides to it.
Yeah.
But I think that's one positive thing.
What grade do you usually teach, or is it all over?
When I was a full-time teacher, I taught seniors, and then it was a K through 12 school. 1 year I had to teach 6th and 7th grade along with seniors.
What's your like preference?
Seniors for sure.
Yeah.
Like 11th, 12th grade is 10th grade cool, is overall cool too. Just because like high schoolers you can be sarcastic with.
Yeah.
You can kind of like, they're not adults, they're still kids, and like they're still goofy, but like you can be more like direct or sarcastic with them, or like, hey, come on, like, bro, what are you doing? Whereas like middle schoolers, I mean, it's a hard time to be a kid, like that age group, but it's just, I can't deal with how like squirrely and like they just think that the dumbest stuff is funny, and everything's sticky for some reason, and their hormones and smells. And so, I mean, I can teach middle school, and I still do have love for those kids, but it's just, for me, takes a lot less energy to teach high school. But yeah, when I sub now, which I'm doing it less, like I've subbed like once in the past 2 or 3 weeks, I will mainly do high school, and every once in a while I'll do middle school.
I feel like that's a good gig for stand up, because it's during the day. I know like sometimes you have to go in real early, which that's tough because you have to be out late. But
do you ever somewhat like run by new bits kind of by your students? You're like, I'm gonna try this one out.
No, but I have there's this private school in LA that I love subbing at, because like the kids, like if the teacher leaves a lesson plan that says just have them do a study hall, they'll literally just quietly, like maybe 2 kids will talk a little bit too much, but they'll just like quietly do a study hall.
Wow.
And they have lunches free. I mean, tuition is so expensive that lunch is free, but like they have like an executive head chef, and like I'll go and like they're like, lunch today, the greens are from this farm, the potatoes are from this farm in Idaho. We made red bean rice and like jerk chicken with fried plantains.
Wow.
And you're just like, what? But that school,
What?
one of the first years I was subbing there, they found me on Instagram, like this class of seniors. And at the time I had like 90,000 followers or something like that. And so they're like, why do you have followers? They're like, you somebody? Like, what? And I was just like, nah. I usually anytime kids like recognize me from TikTok, they're like, do you have TikTok? I'm like, no. And then they show like a picture of one of my TikToks. I'm like, yo, that's not me. And every once in a while a kid will be like, oh yeah, the voice is different.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is this one student goes, oh, do you do stand-up? And so I was like, I didn't want to say yes, because it's just like, it's annoying when people find out that you do stand-up. They're always like,
Tell me a joke.
where are you performing next? Tell me a joke right now. Be funny or whatever. So I'm just like, oh, no. She's like, oh, well, like I intern at a comedy club. Like I could get you some stage. And I'm just like, this is so LA. Now I'm networking with this 17-year-old in AP Bio. So like, and she ended up the Crow in Santa Monica, which is a lovely club, newer club in LA. The owner like loves stand up as a kid, but like all comedy clubs are 21 plus. So she will have like every once in a while like 13 plus shows, like clean shows for kids to go to, or we'll do like workshops for teens to do stand up. And this girl happened to be like an intern there, and then like mentioned to the owner, who I already kind of knew anyway, but then since the kid requested me,
wow,
they like booked me on like the next show.
That's
So
hilarious. That's
just,
fucking awesome.
That's fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah, it's just like the most LA thing ever. It's like, yeah, it's this private school where all the kids drive like Teslas and Audis.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
You're like, oh, it's Vince Vaughn's kid. We're starting a buddy cop.
I can get you some stage time. I'm like, thank you, ma'am. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
The funny part is you're kind of like, well, actually, you know what I mean?
I was like, yeah. When she's like, do you do stand up? Don't want to talk about it. I can get you stage time. Hello.
Yeah.
Here's my business card.
Yeah.
I gotta catch the bus, but best I can do is 2 drink tickets. If that works for you, let me know tomorrow.
That's fucking funny, dude. That's awesome. And then so when you were, so I know you said that like you got with your wife and you guys moved out here and then started stand up out here. But like when you were like coaching and stuff, like were you enjoying it? Were you kind of like thinking about transitioning to like something else or like?
My goal was always to like coach at the highest level, like or like college. Like I was like, oh, if I could. Like, I'm sure since I played, like, small school ball and, like, now my experience is coaching, like, D3 or NAIA, I'll probably, like, stay at that level. But if I could get to the D1 level, that would be great. But even when those were the aspirations, in the back of my head, it was like, oh, well, there's plenty of, like, regular analysts or people on, like, CBS or ESPN who were coaches and then they transition into becoming like the pregame show guys.
Right.
And so even when I was doing coaching, I'm like, maybe I could do that at some point, not even realizing it's like, hey man, you could just pursue that without having to do the coaching.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny too. I remember like I don't know if it's right, but I heard like Rich Eisen used to try to do stand up and like Colin Cowherd and stuff. Like they tried. Like,
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those guys, like, I don't know, especially, yeah, like if you work in sports or an athlete, you kind of have that kind of like bravado of like I can do anything. But yeah, I mean, I liked coaching. You realize with college coaching though, so little of it is actually coaching. So much of it is like when you're an assistant or grad assistant, you're doing all like the grunt work that the coach doesn't like. Okay, like plan the travel, make sure the hotels are booked. Oh, I don't want to go to Baton Rouge to recruit this kid. You like go down there to sit in this hot high school gym and try to convince a 17-year-old that you're their best option for college. And okay, administration wants to check in on this, so or parent, like, you know, when you're recruiting, you're dealing with like parents who are a little uptight. So I did like coaching and like the actual X's and O's and like breaking down film and that sort of thing, but you just realize like there's so little time spent like actually coaching when you're like an assistant coach at the college level.
No, I was, because I wanted the same thing. I was like, I wanted to be the general manager of a professional football team.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm fucking scraping balls with sandpaper and like not doing shit. Like, you know what I mean? It just was like I got to a point where I was like, I fucking like, and like I said, I always kind of wanted to be in this realm. So I was like, it's like, I don't know, I might as well figure it out or, you know, work for myself if I'm gonna be doing not really exactly what it is I want to do, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the dream still is like if you get like become a big enough comic where you'll just automatically have an audience for whatever you do and just like stream like Timberwolves or like Steelers games and just like comment and just like, yeah, this is just a passion of mine to just like be like, I can't believe this is happening, have guests on, and like I would still love to do something like that, like if I got to a point where, because sports aren't really my brand right now, so I guess it's not like what I'm gonna spend time doing, but that stuff still would be fun to me.
That's why I knew you were gonna be a great guest on your period, because it's like, you know, we sometimes on the show we talk a lot of sports, you know what I mean, but then also like sometimes we'll live stream and just like do football picks or just something like that. I like to like combine it because it still is like a thing, you know, something that's like fun for me to do. But and that was a big thing though too, is like it kind of turned sports into like when I worked in the NFL, hated watching the NFL. When I worked in the NHL, hated watching the NHL.
But now that it's not work.
Yeah, now that's not working. Like comedy's still like, you know, it's not like I'm around the clubs enough where it's like I'm not really going home and like watching someone special unless like I just watched like the last Burr one or something like that. But
some of the big guys.
Yeah, some of the big guys. But it's like, you know, it's like I don't want to like get aphasia or like think, you know what I mean. It's like the less you watch, kind of the better sometimes.
I have friends who like send like non-comedy friends who send me stand-up reels.
Oh, the best. You know I do this too.
Yeah, and it's like one of those, and I think that's why they're like, oh, Sam likes, he does comedy, so he likes it. And I guess I probably do that too, where it's like, if someone's shredding on guitar, I'll send to my friend who like used to be in a band. So I guess I get it, but I'm also like, there's nothing worse than where it's like, dude, this dude's hilarious, and it's like, yeah, I know that guy.
I know.
Honestly, he's one of my best friends, and I'm pissed that you just sent me his reel. Like, shut up. Like, but I've also had that happen where like other comedians like, yeah, my sister like loves your stuff online. And I'm like, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that happened. That's annoying. Yeah.
No, it's funny. I remember like this was honestly probably a month ago. I'm like bombing in some like bar up in NoHo, and I look at the TV and Willie Max like doing a Subway commercial. I'm like, fuck me. Like,
Yeah.
I saw Willie and told him he's cracking up. I was like,
That's the funny thing about moving to LA. I'm sure like both of y'all have this is like you all of a sudden like every other commercial. Like I'm hanging out with non-comedy friends. I'm like, oh, I know that person. That person's it. And they're like, Sam, we don't care.
yeah, dude.
Cool, you know commercial actors. I'm like, well, no, it's just
Yeah.
once you're like here, you're like every other like Super Bowl ad. It's just like
I've seen Martin Morrow on every goddamn commercial.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
Sean
swear to
Martin. He's
God.
on like progressive
best.
stuff.
He was 2 episodes ago.
He's in a Honda Accord
It was
episode. I
great.
just saw him the other night.
Yeah.
He's killing it.
He's so funny, dude. Our DM, like the guy is hilarious. Like that
He's
guy,
super funny.
like the shit he sends me, I'm always like, dude, you're a nut job. I love it. Like,
He was my first show I ever did. Was I mean I guess we had a little class show when I signed up for it, but like I got booked at the Comedy Chateau, which if you want
Shout
to
out.
get booked at the Comedy Chateau, you can.
yeah. Go talk to Felix.
The requirement is to have a pulse, I guess.
Seriously, dude.
And there's some very funny people that perform there, but like you can basically like they do bringer shows for those unfamiliar. It's just basically like as long as you bring at least 5 people, you get to perform for 5 minutes.
Yep.
So that was my first show, but Martin was hosting it and like doing bits in between like sometimes and just absolutely murdering. And like I don't do bringer shows anymore because it's like it's not
Worth
I
it.
guess where I'm at in my career, but like bringer shows can as predatory as they can be, where it's just like they're forcing people to just force their friends to come watch them perform. They can kind of be fire because it is just like a packed room. If like everybody actually did bring 5 people, it's like all these new comedians who are bringing their friends who are excited to see their friend for the first time. So like if you get to be one of those people who's like headlining a show, like it's a bringer show for everybody else. I mean, I feel guilty when that happens, but it's like, these crowds are actually kind of fire. So he was just absolutely destroying because it's a bunch of people who have barely done stand-up comedy.
Yeah, they're all
and
nervous
him who's
doing
like
5 minutes,
a
like-
professional actor, comedian, like absolutely. Yeah, he's a very funny guy.
No, that's,
go check out Martin Morrow.
Yeah.
Follow
go
him.
check him out. Go check out our episode that we had with him. He was fucking awesome. He's just one of the funniest. Like I remember one time when we were just hanging outside of comedy and we went to this bar and it was packed, right? I'm like, I wonder how I'm gonna find him. I look in the corner, he's playing the fucking trombone. Like the trombone. It's like I was like, oh, found him. Like it took me 2 seconds.
That's
like,
what's up.
I know. It's just like he's
A man a million pounds.
I love him to death. But no, it is. I remember when I first got asked to do like 15 minutes, I didn't have it, and then someone was like, just go to the Chateau, they'll put you up, and then. Like I went, enough times to get the 15 minutes to like do for the first time, but yeah, like thinking back to those days is fun.
Yeah, I'm glad not to have to do bringer shows anymore.
Oh,
but yeah,
thank
same.
God.
I remember doing like comedy in LA is tough because there's way less stage time because all the
True.
famous people live here. And so like I went up to Portland to visit I just happened to be there to visit my sister. So I was like, oh, I'll try to get on some shows. And someone was like, oh yeah, you're in town from LA? Yeah, you headline. Like, and I found day of. They're like, oh, you can headline and do 20 to 25 minutes. I'm like, I've only ever done 7 minutes before.
Right.
Like, what do I even have to do? And
Dude, that's why I was freaking out when I got asked because I was like, and it was back in Pittsburgh, and I'm like performing in front of everyone I know for the first
so you
time.
wanna make sure
want to
it's
make sure
like,
it's good,
yeah.
and then I'm freaking out, and then of course day of, the headliner calls me. He goes, hey, I got good news and bad news. Good news is you're gonna do 20 tonight because the other guy missed his flight. Bad news is he missed his flight. I was like, all right, and I'm like in my head, I'm like, fuck, dude, like I only have 15.
Yeah, you're like, that's actually all bad news.
yeah.
Moments like that, that's when you're like, then you do, and you're like, oh, I can do this. Because my first time ever headlining was actually at Flappers, and I was like, name on the marquee, it's my show, but I'm like, I don't know, there's a world in which I only do half hour, which, again, if you're not familiar, if you're headlining, like, not like headlining like a showcase show, but actually like on the road touring headlining. It's you do 45 is like the shortest you do. And so I was like, can I even do a half hour? Because again, in LA, you're so often, even really strong comics who are like professional comics are sometimes only getting 8 minutes on a show.
Right.
And so like, I was like, maybe I can get to 30, and I ended up getting to 45 like fairly easily, like with doing some crowd work where I was just like, oh yeah, and then you do 20 minutes for the first time or 15 or whatever, and you're like, okay.
Well, I love talking
I
to you
can
about
do
this right now too, because like we were just talking about the show, like I haven't headlined yet, and I'm thinking now in my head, I'm like, all right, I've done 30, and I did 30 in Pittsburgh once, and I was like, But now I'm like, that extra 15 minutes is in my head, like, you know what I mean? Like,
But yeah, but also that's the thing too, is like you're used to doing tight, like, okay, I got 5 minutes to impress this booker and get through it. But it's like when you're headlining, especially like, oh, you're doing a hometown show, longer laughs.
Yeah.
You can riff on, like, you can make fun of Pittsburgh in a way that other people can't.
Yeah.
Or like their crowd work, you can take time to pause a joke and like just notice something. And so yeah, when you're filming your special, you want it to be like as tight as possible, but there's, you know, when you're doing 20 minutes or more, it's like, wow, there's actually room to like breathe in between jokes and stuff like that.
You know, that is like cool, because like even when I think back to like that first time I did Pittsburgh, and now I've done it like 6 times, and when I did it last month, it was like there had been a few people who hadn't seen me since the first time, like, holy shit, like, or had never seen me, you know what I mean? And like, no, it's a good feeling too, because like we just said, it's like we've been doing this long enough now. It's like it feels good to know that we're getting somewhere with it, you know, like with talent wise and stuff.
Yeah.
But so we're gonna take a quick little 5-minute bathroom break, and then we come back. We play a little current topic game, and then that's the end of the show. So just want to remind you guys real quick: May 10th, Pittsburgh, be there.
I also feel like we didn't make fun of you enough for going to a Maddie Matheson live show.
Yeah, that guy got swept under the rug.
I kind of had that coming.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
He's a cool guy though.
Cool guy. I just didn't. I've never been like, I love you, man, but I want to go home.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm standing 5 feet away from him, and he's looking down. And there's only
few people,
6 people with us. So
you
it's
feel
like,
guilty leaving.
Yeah, it's just gonna. I don't want to be that guy.
Fair.
all right, guys, we'll be
Bathroom
right
break,
back. Yep.
sorry.
What's up, everybody? We're back. Quick intermission. Thanks for sticking with us. So at the end of the show, we kind of just to kind of riff and be comedians. We little just current.
I gotta be a comedian.
Yeah, you're on the clock, mate.
Tell me a joke.
We'll give you the light. You just pull out. You know, it's simple. You pull out the subject. We just riff on it. Kind of, you know, keep it going. I'll just do the first one here to get us started. High school senior pranks.
Ooh, we didn't. My class was like pretty lame, but my sister's high school prank, they let chickens loose in the school.
Oh shit.
And actually, a town over did the thing where they let out 3 chickens in the school, and they painted one with the number 1, one with the number 2, and one with the number 4. So even after they found the 3rd chicken, they spent a lot of time.
That's a good prank.
Looking for the number 3. But yeah, I don't like, because some of the school pranks at my school were like, not like one senior class, they broke glass in the school parking lot and then cemented over it. And I'm like, that's just like a crime. Like that's not like it's just like y'all are delinquents. Like that's not that's just like destruction of property.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't really know.
Burn the school down. We pranked you.
Yeah, we were just kind of like, we're not gonna do whatever. We're good.
We didn't do really. We were just, my class was like the party class. By the time we were sophomores, like we ran the school. So I remember we would have big parties, and the one party, it made like the fucking news, like the fucking Pittsburgh news, because like my friend's parents were like doctors, and they almost got like their doctors taken away.
Because they like knew people were partying.
Yeah, and I was the only one who got away. And so they kept, like, on the news report, they would always be like, there's one person who got away out the back door, and it was me. And I'll never forget, like, jumping over this fence, ripping my jeans, like, straight in half. Like, and my friend had to, like, this is such, like, a small town, like, Midwestern thing. Like, he had to, like, write notes to, like, everybody's parents to, like, apologize, you know what I mean, and stuff.
Of course.
And I caught wind that he's dropping them off at people's houses, and my parents, you know, they were, like, way older and stuff. Like, they had no idea that this party even happened. So I called him up, I'm like, hey, dude, don't go to my house. Yeah. And he's like, why? And I was like, my parents have no idea about it. And he's like, it's on the fucking news. Like, how do they not know? I'm like, they don't know. And he's like, he was like, that's awesome, because now they still like me. You know, everyone, the parents hated him.
One less note to write. My wrist isn't as sore.
Yeah. What about you, Noah? Do you have any Kansas City one?
I feel like we didn't do anything crazy in high school, but I remember our last day of 8th grade, which was like the private school that we went to. And then everyone was like, you know, going their separate ways after that. And we had a religion class there, and we went in and like we fucked with this teacher too hard. The whole class did. Like she got fired after this, or like demoted to like Spanish teacher assistant like the next year. But like she was a hard ass too, and we were like lined up at the door to go in, and we're like, guys, whatever she says, it's opposite day, all right? And then she was already pissed off in a pissy mood, so she opens the door and she's like, come inside, sit down, and everyone be quiet. So like kids just, like, we see some of our friends just throw their shit, like, against the wall, just all their books. One kid, like, sat in his chair and then just tipped over in the back, and she's like, what's going on? This one kid, Jackson, stands on his desk. She's like, sit down and be quiet, and he just starts mooing, like, out loud. And then other kids stand on the desk and start mooing and just going berserk. One kid ran out of the school.
I'm just like, man, this poor lady.
That's all I was thinking about. I was like, Sam's just going PTSD.
She ran to go get the principals, and then because she's like, this is too much, it's out of control. And then everyone was like, all right, fucking sit down, get out your paper, like, we're all gonna worry. And the principals come in too, and then it's like, what's the problem? We're all like, I don't know. We're doing our work. We're waiting for Miss Templeton to come back and start the class. They're like, are you okay, Miss Templeton? She's like, I swear.
Are there cameras like in school now and stuff too? Like, I feel like
at hallways, but not. I don't think like classrooms.
Yeah,
but
because I heard someone told me from my because when they redid like Mount Lebanon, apparently someone said that there's cameras in classrooms now, and I was like, what?
That's a little crazy.
Yeah,
I mean. Yeah, I guess
sometimes
if you have nothing to hide,
if there's kids smoking bowls,
it shouldn't be an issue.
Here, I'll let you pick the next one.
Okay, next one. If I could unfold it.
They're a little sticky.
We had one teacher that didn't have a camera. He had a rear view mirror on top of his whiteboard, so when he's writing, he can still look back.
That's not a bad move.
School bullies. I get bullied by school bullies as an adult more than when I was in school. Dude, I was at this middle school in, I forgot whatever area of LA, but it was just like, it was a tough school where like there's always like fights, and these are like little middle schoolers, like tiny kids, and it's just one of those things where you're like set up to fail, where like the administration doesn't even
give a shit.
I don't know if that, but they just like don't tell subs like I wasn't given a lesson plan. Classes are 100 minutes long, which is way too long for middle school, and if I don't have anything to give them. And there was this kid who took, they call it the Chrome cart, because like a bunch of Chromebooks, which are just basically like laptops without anything on it other than Google Chrome, so you can like sign into Google Classroom or whatever. Anyway,
Gotcha.
It's like a whole, it's just like a, 4 foot tall, 3 foot wide cart, like that holds all the computers in his metal. A kid took it and like ran and like shoved me and pinned me up against the wall with it, and like unexpected. So then I was like, okay, like eventually it's like a little middle schooler, so I like push it off, but I'm trying to push back in a way where I don't like steamroll them, because I know like
you could hurt the kid. Yeah.
And then parents like to sue, and then they started breaking up their pencils, so there was like shards, and trying to throw them like into my glasses.
What?
And then the kid tried to square up. Bro, this was in the this was this school year, I'm pretty sure.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Like, I literally, like, I was supposed to be there for a week, and I walked out to the front desk. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not coming back. Sorry for the inconvenience, but I can't do it. And the lady at the front desk was like, oh, I totally get it.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But looking back to actual school bully, there was a kid on the hockey team, which, like, if you think stereotypical, like, quarterback and cheerleader, ours was, like, hockey captain and dance team or whatever. We're, like, the cool kids, but this kid on the hockey team would like throw food at me at lunch and like be an asshole to me, and I was just like, oh, the hockey kids. Like, I wasn't like getting like straight up bullied by him, but I would just kind of let him do it and ignore him or whatever. And then looking back, I'm like, bro, I was like 6'2", and this kid was like 5'7", and I probably had like 25 pounds on it. Like, not that I was like bulky, but he was just like, looking
just
back,
put him in a pretzel. Yeah.
If I just had like it's only in high school where you'd be like, well, he's like the popular one and I'm not. Like, all it would have taken is me just taking one swing at him, and it would have been done. But I don't know if y'all had school bullies or were school bullies.
Nah. I mean, I got people, like, when I was younger, people would always be like, I still do a joke about it when they're like, my name's Auguste, so you're gonna get bullied, just to be like, what are you, gay? Like, just straight up just for my name, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a few times I had to like get into it with some kids about that, but they're not that bad. And then funny enough, for whatever reason, you just talking about working at that school. I just remember when I was working for the Raiders, we'd always, I was a community relations, so we're always going to schools, And in Oakland, that could be pretty rough sometimes. Right. And I remember my first ever time going to it was a middle school in Oakland, and I was like, I wonder what this is gonna be like, right? As soon as I walk in, the second I walk in, I'm wearing just like a Raiders like pullover, And this kid just goes, "Yo, Raider man, you know where I can get some weed?" I was just like, the second I walked in, I was like, "Ah, shit! I guess this is what it is."
That's so fun. That's so classic too. It's just like, what can I say to act up in front of this adult that I've never seen here before?
And then and then I sold him some weed, and no, but
Hello, police.
Yeah. No, you were just bullying your teacher, but
Dude, fuck. I was not like those other kids, but I was in the mix. You know, I wasn't like, guys, we should calm down.
Yeah, you can't
know?
be a narc. You can't be the
Playing both sides.
yeah.
There was one kid in high school. He would fuck with me. His name was Harry, and he'd like I'd be like drinking my milk at lunch. He'd just like come like slap it out of my fucking hand and like take my fries too. And I'd just be like, this motherfucker, like I'm gonna fuck this dude up someday. Like I never did anything like that, but I later on when I started DJing and I started like playing all like the big shows around Kansas City, he like came to one of my shows and like. In the middle of my set, I see him in the front row, and I just like turned down the music, and I was like, I just want to let everybody know this kid right here used to bully the shit out of me in high school. Everyone say "fuck you, Harry," and the like fucking 1,000 people are just "fuck you, Harry." People around him are just like "fuck you, you're fucking at." Like one girl was like "fuck you, you're gonna talk shit on him," like spit on him too. I was like, "Whoa!" And I was like,
You just turned the mob on him.
Yeah, but
people love being in a mob. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, right.
You can't get anybody. You start a chant. Yeah, people are just like, I'm in. Yeah.
That's funny how I don't. It's random, but you know how like Eminem, he got sued by his high school boy because he used his real name on a song.
Oh,
No
really?
way.
Yeah, he called him. I used to get bullied daily by this kid named D'Angelo Bailey, and then D'Angelo Bailey sued him. He lost, I think, but yeah, he sued him.
So funny.
Yeah, talk about.
That's fucking awesome. Okay, let's see what we got here. Favorite school subject? Me, history, dude.
I'm
history
history,
all
yeah.
the way. Back in time.
I mean, I definitely thought I was going to coach high school football and be a history teacher at some point. Like,
I thought about being a history teacher at one point in my life too.
Yeah, don't do it.
yeah, that's it.
We had like business classes. Like we had like intro to business or intro to marketing, and they like it was basically just like learning the definition of like key terms in those fields. But it was the teachers were really cool.
Dude.
I never had it was always very teacher based for me. Like I had my junior English teacher, Mr. Bennett, was like a really good storyteller, and so like just
You're just making. I minored in business in college, and the fucking dude. I had a teacher named Miss Romance. Just definition of a MILF, you know. It was the only class I sat in the front row my whole life. Me and my boy Nick, shout out Nick, he watches. We sat, we still like, to this day we're like, dude, Miss Romance, anything she asked, she got. And her name was Miss Romance. We're like, this is like something out of a fucking
name.
Yeah, it was awesome. Shout out Miss Romance. I wonder where you're at. But all right.
She's listening.
Yeah.
We know.
All right, we can.
one more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can always skip one if there's.
Katy Perry goes to space. Yeah, I mean, some people need less money.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I don't know why it's like I get made fun of for being like too woke among my friend group, and like I'm all for feminism, and you know, like my wife runs shits in my house. What does this do for women? Hey, we just like put more of a hole in the ozone layer and sent you up to space for 5 seconds. We're like, yay, women! It's like, no one is inspired by Katy Perry.
Did you see that they like I can't remember, one big Twitter account or whatever tweeted like Katy Perry successfully comes back from space, and the Wendy's admin tweeted back, can we send her back?
Shout out the Wendy.
Yeah,
admin.
Can we applaud that lady astronaut that was just got back to Earth after being trapped in space for like a year and a half? She was supposed to go up for like 2 weeks, and then she was stuck up there.
She was up there for like
she
ever.
just got back.
Yeah.
No one's celebrating her.
Yeah. I just don't. The people who are like pumped about Katy Perry going to space are the same people who like think the Kardashians are something to aspire to.
Right.
And I'm saying that show, I've seen the show, it can be entertaining. I'm not saying it's not like had entertainment value, but like their actual like personal beliefs, and they're like, yeah,
Right.
I want to hear what they have to say about business.
This is a good one. I feel like favorite slang word. Because I know you. This is a good one, Alec. Weren't you on SportsCenter for coming up with something?
Yeah, I did like a little series where I was like sometimes I like make up slang words, like my own slang words, and then like prank the kids into thinking they're real. And like with the middle schoolers, like I've never heard that. It's like, oh, they say it at the high school all the time. And then shout out my guy Gary, he's the weekend sport. He was the Snapchat Sports Center guy, and then he got weekend Sports Center. And now he's like the main everyday Disney Plus Sports Center. But he like someone was like, I heard your word on Sports Center. I'm like, well, that's not true. And then literally they were like, those like LeBron highlights, and they're like, shout out Sam Salem, and I was just like, oh damn,
Dude, that's
what a time.
Was that you two that was that us? Were you messing around with the big dog thing, or was that something else? I can't remember. But
like the Tiger Wood big dog meme.
Yeah,
I don't think that was me.
Okay,
No,
okay.
I've not done anything with that.
Well, yeah, no, that's cool. Like it must have been kind of cool for you to see that too. Like that's what kind of like just a random like.
Yeah, that's where it's like with comedy, it's so silly because for like, there's plenty of people that could have had that viral moment that weren't comedians, or like there's been plenty of times where I get like a video that does pop off and it doesn't actually do anything other than it was cool to get some likes.
Yeah.
But like every show that I do, there's always at least like a few people who are like, the slang, that's why I followed you, and like say my slang to me, and it was just like, I don't even remember some
Exactly
of
what
it.
you were
It was
saying,
just like a little moment where I was just doing like keeping myself entertained or whatever, and thought it was just a dumb little idea. So it's but I don't know, my favorite slang word. This is so dumb, but goated.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all, but there is, for those that you don't know, like if you're the GOAT greatest of all time, so if you're goated, you're the best. There's this meme of this little cat with like cute little eyes looking up at like the camera, and it says, "Wait, I'm goated." Mm-hmm. And it's like unironically changed my mindset. I'm like, anytime I'm like feeling down about something that doesn't actually matter that much, I just say to myself, "Wait, I'm goated," and then I just move on.
Makes you feel better, yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm like that cat, right? Wait, I'm like, I'm just like, I'm getting anxious. I'm like, wait, what if everybody hates me? Wait, I'm goated, and then move on. So I don't actually like the word like using it for real all the time, but in that way.
Did you ever hear that Meryl Streep story?
No.
She was on a movie with Jonah Hill and Jennifer Lawrence, and they were calling Meryl Streep the GOAT the whole time, and she didn't know what it meant, I guess. So by the end of it, they're like, "Meryl, we need you over here." He goes, "Yeah, just the old GOAT coming around." And they're like, "Meryl, like GOAT stands for like greatest of all time." She's like, "Oh, I thought you guys were just calling me an old goat this whole production."
That's so funny.
Yeah.
As if they would ever like disrespect someone like
Yeah,
Meryl
like Meryl
Streep.
Streep like that. We got 2 left right here if we want to pull one and then Noah, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, we can get Kill Tony premieres on Netflix. Are you guys big Kill Tony guys?
I'm
I think I was more back in the day, but not as much anymore.
I've never watched. I guess if you listen to this podcast, you're a fan of comedy. But if you don't know, Tony Hinchcliffe runs an open mic, and people do a minute worth of material, and then they either say that was a good job, or more likely they just obliterate you and make fun of you. There are some very big comic like Cam Patterson, who's popped off. Guy Casey Rocket, I was on a show. Some of those guys are nice, but overall, Kill Tony. I'm not an Austin comic guy. There are very funny comics there, and there's some very cool clubs.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a faction of people who move there, specifically from LA, where they're just like, I'm moving to Austin so I can say slurs on stage.
Yeah. They're chasing that crowd.
And I'm just like, if you need to say slurs in order to get an audience to laugh, you probably weren't that good of a joke writer.
Right.
So, shout out Kill Tony and the people being successful from it. Again,
people think
I'm woke in a gay way, and not homosexual gay in like the early 2000s when you're calling someone lame. So Kill Tony is not something that I would be like, yeah, I'm a Kill Tony dude.
No, me neither. I'm the same way too, where it's like, I don't know, it's just not my thing. I'm not really into it. And I used to live in Austin, and I was just like really boring for me. And I actually met Tony at the comedy store, and he was nice and everything, but it was like when I told him I used to live in Austin, he was like shocked that like I didn't like living there. You know what I mean? Which is like, I don't know, interesting too.
It's a cool, good food scene.
Yeah,
nice
but after
people.
I lived there for 3 months, and I was like, I've done everything.
Yeah.
Like
That's fair.
I was over it.
This last one's Rory McIlroy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. My bad. Rory McIlroy wins Masters tournament after sudden death. I did actually watch that the very end. I was at a Masters party, and I was watching on my phone, YouTube TV,
That's cool. Masters party.
Shout out Max Castillo, funny comedian.
I love
his
Max.
favorite event, and he throws a party every year and makes like the pimento sandwiches and like all the food
Oh,
that they have at the
I'm gonna try to sneak over there next year. That's
I'm sure he'd love that. He's a more the merrier kind of guy.
He's
and
the man.
Everyone's like locked in on the Masters, and I'm in the corner on my YouTube TV app watching the final day of NBA. Like, okay, if they win, then the Timberwolves are the 4 seed, but if they lose, then they'll be the 6 seed. But that was cool that went into a sudden death.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize he had won all the majors except for the Masters. So that was like his
Yeah, it was funny too. This is shout out Rory. That was really cool. But when Tiger won again back in like 2019 or whatever it was, I was at the Penguins playoff game, and they have these things called like loge boxes, which is kind of a box, but you're like in the middle of the arena.
Yeah.
And every single person was like, we had a TV that's like smaller than my laptop, and everyone's trying to watch our like thing instead of the playoff game we're actually at. You know what I mean? And all the ushers asking us and everything too. And the last one we were gonna have on here, who's winning the NBA Finals? What's your prediction? Is it the T-Wolves?
I mean, I'm gonna say the Timberwolves as a fan. I guess if I'm only going unbiased brain, unfortunately, I think it's probably gonna be the Celtics again, which I would hate that.
Me too, dude.
But I just think they are
complete.
I think the Cavs and OKC are better. There's a lot of people trying to say like, oh, they can only do like this. OKC team is historically great for the regular season. I know the playoffs are different, but my hot take: Wolves, Clippers, Western Conference Finals.
Oh wow, you heard it here first.
Kawhi's gonna stay healthy. James Harden is elite, top 5 shooting guard of all time.
They got a good bench. Norman Powell, shout out.
Are you
Dude,
an NBA guy
I'm
now?
just now getting into NBA because Kansas City, we never had a team
never
going on,
team,
so I never watched it until I moved out here and then working at the Ice House, like under the Bus family too, and like around Lakers stuff. We started watching it more. My friends, I'm getting into it now, and like I have 3 criteria for finding a team, and I think I'm going Timberwolves is what I want to be my team. I gotta fuck with the city. Okay. I gotta fuck with the player, like at least one player.
Yeah.
And I can't be joining a bandwagon.
I love it.
And I love Anthony Edwards. I love Minnesota. I love Minneapolis. I love everything out there.
We welcome you with open arms.
Dude, thank you. It's an
You
honor.
got Sam's stamp of approval.
It's an honor and a privilege. I'm going Timberwolves.
All right, I love that. And you're in LA, so you get to play the hater to all the local.
100%.
Me and Sandy over here will be Lakers fans, Steelers fans. All right, guys, I just wanted to remind you again, May 10th, come see us, Low Lev Brewery. Sam's headlining. I'll be on the show. Take a link will be in the bio and all of our socials. Sam, you want to plug your other shows or socials?
Yeah, I'll be in Detroit the day before. Other cities dropping soon. Samuel Sleeves, like shirt sleeves on all one word on all socials, and we're all gonna live forever.
Yep. Dude, thanks so much for being on the show. This was really
Thanks
fun.
for having me, guys.
Yeah, I love
Great.
hanging out with you,
This was
bud.
awesome.
And
Thanks for having a dog.
Yeah, she's chilling now, of course. Now she's being a good girl. Guys, as always, Alec Bergman. Alec. I mentioned both your names. We got Noah Bergman and we got Alec John producing, and we will see you at another show. Come out of the Ice House. Sense of Humor TV out. Thanks, guys.
Peace.